theme of this year's DP art exhibition, "Sorry, I got disconnected," is quite apt. To be able to really understand a piece of art, we need time. Too often, we have many thoughts running through our head, and so I see that our students this year are asking us to stop, clear our mind, and then view their pieces. Great writers such as Dickens, Hemingway, Virginia Woolf wrote amazing manuscripts, and their words could tell a story and give us a really great look at what they were trying to say. But it's different for artists. An artist must show originality, vision and hard work and commitment, and try and deliver a message without the use of words. They must instill a response from the audience that comes from visual cues to evoke emotions, to tell a story, to make a statement. I found some interesting quotes about art. Firstly, by Edgar Degas, "Art is not what you see, but what you make others see." Annie Albers, "Art is something that makes you breathe with a different kind of happiness." Jason Pollock, "Art is coming face to face with yourself." And Edward Hopper, "If I could say in words, there would be no reason to paint." I would be remiss if I did not also point out that our students have been living in a turbulent time. We have been on-site, online, with so many interruptions. With the ongoing uncertainty that faces all of us here and internationally, this without doubt has had an impact on our students. The fact that despite all the uncertainty, our students have still managed to produce these magnificent works speaks volumes to their passion and their resilience. Our grade 12 students are a great role model for their peers in grade 11. And I welcome our grade 11 students too. To our grade 12 students, thank you. To our teachers who have supported them through this process, thank you. And to the parents and friends who supported our students, again, I say thank you. May all of you disconnect and connect again with our talented students. Thank you so much and good luck.
It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this year's Visual Arts exhibition. I'm incredibly impressed by what our grade 12 students have produced, and I'm sure you will be equally impressed. How appropriate that the theme for this year's exhibition is "Sorry, I got disconnected." Besides being something we can all relate to in our online-dominated working lives, and something that our students were all too familiar with in their online learning journey over the past 2 years, it also significantly offers an approach to viewing and interpreting the artworks on display today. It is an invitation for you as the audience to view each art piece as its own creation by connecting and then disconnecting. You are invited to connect with each piece by considering, processing, and interpreting. In appreciating each work as its own unique creation, speaking the artist's message, you are able to truly connect with the work. Once you have done this, disconnect and allow yourself a new connection as you proceed to the next artwork, and so on and so on. In this way, the grade 12 students hope to immerse you in their creative process and allow you to fully appreciate the depth and breadth of all the artwork on display today. So, enjoy connecting and disconnecting.
Hello, my name is Aneska, and welcome to my exhibition titled The Self. Exploring the mind and how it can reveal the unknown side of self is the theme for my exhibition. This theme originated from the theme of childhood, where I explored past memories and dreams through artworks to present identity. However, during my creative journey, the theme of childhood eventually evolved as I also talked about the future and the present in my artworks. This theme is inspired by my own experience, where I struggled to express and understand myself. Hence, I used art as a tool for self-expression and reflection, where I express and accept thoughts that I would ignore and would have not shown. Having an interest in surrealism pushed me further into implementing this approach to my artworks. There were a lot of artists that inspired me throughout my creative process, but René Magritte has the most influence on my artworks. Just like the numerous appearance of apples and bowler hats in his surrealist paintings, I use my own repetitive symbolic objects throughout my body of work. In the beginning of my creative journey, my artworks tend to connect to the sea and those within it as I express myself. Hence, I use the sea as a symbol of the mind to be the foundation that connects all my artworks for this exhibition. In addition, René Magritte's and all surrealist artists' approach of exploring the subconscious in general has also been my inspiration in creating artworks. In my exhibition, I portrayed different aspects of me and my mind with connections to myself and experiences. I explored and experimented with a lot of mediums and styles in an attempt to fully depict my thoughts and ideas. The table that conveys the longing for carefreeness is drawn and colored with pastels to portray the feeling of a child and innocence. Contrary to that artwork is shadows, where I use a pan's heart straight line to convey the misery of the many regrets I have experienced. And then fish head that shows a child with a fish head in a dark background made with acrylic paint on canvas. It conveys the unfamiliarity of oneself and the search of identity. And then I have flowing, another acrylic paint on canvas artwork, which conveys calmness and happiness. And then paper boats, which is an installation artwork using paper boats, which has a special meaning in my life. Therefore, I folded a lot of paper boats, and it is to convey the fragility of the mind with the use of paper boats. And then my boat, which is a print-making artwork, and it is to convey contentment and dependence. Lastly, I have the sun that conveys hopes and dreams and how it affects me, which is a mixed media artwork using several different materials. Other than showing the different aspects of mine, the connections I made to myself in these artworks reveals what I am. To mirror the mind, I arranged the artworks in no specific order, and this is to represent the array of many varying thoughts that can coexist together. So what I want to convey from this arrangement is that the calm and the turbulence of the mind, the hopefulness and the worries, the strengths and the weaknesses can be together, and it is what builds a person. And so the viewers are free to approach any artworks in their preferred order to collect and piece together the different aspects that represents myself. Perhaps my exhibition can also influence them to reflect on themselves and accept their mind, whether good or bad.
I want to use art as a tool to express and visualize the struggle of life that can give new perspective to the audience. Just like a publicly published diary that captures and gives thoughts of the event from one's perspective. We might experience the same struggle, however, our perspective about it will be different. Struggles that are displayed in this exhibition are mainly the struggles to cope with the changes that happened due to the pandemic. This also explains the title of the exhibition. Last edit was years ago. It represents the struggles of finishing a task or even showing progress in life. Geometry can often be found in most of artworks. Ombaknya Industry 4.0, this cubism-inspired artwork is heavily crafted with rhombus and lacks the presence of organic shape. It used to set away traditional batik design, making it minimalistic and creating a new modern design of batik. The change in modern aesthetic gives the struggle to preserve our traditional culture. Geometry is often used to create a scattered effect. Take an example from the biggest piece called the characteristic of ice. The ice cube makes the view of the building scattered, making it difficult to be recognized, just like the pandemic. That makes people struggle to recognize or see things clearly. Another artwork that has the scattered effect is Pertanyaan Kami di tahun 2020. There's a geometricized burung Garuda in the background that represents Jakarta's ex-vice governor response about the validity of COVID-19 data in Indonesia. He said that the data exists, however, he isn't sure whether he believes it or not. The response that contradicts the government's response gives struggle to the citizen on whether they should believe that the virus exists or not. Lastly, sudden coldness, a word that depicts a shock expression by using an eye. The eye is then surrounded with cubism-inspired scattered pieces of triangles. This represents a perfectly crafted and planned life that becomes scattered and unclear when everything changes. An element of one artwork is repeatedly used in another artwork. In 20 Vision and Mission, there is an eye that looking upward that is intended to show the expression of begging and hoping. Just like in the Sudden Coldness, where it also uses the eye to depict a specific expression, it also has Morse code for question mark, which is previously used in Pertanyaan Kami di tahun 2020. To represent the reflection of an uncertain situation, repetition can also be seen in using a spider web in both brown-coated and untouched molds. With the intention of depicting time, I want the exhibition to look like it takes place in an art studio, with artwork that are displayed hanging on the wall using strings and clipper, a painting that is placed on an easel stand, and also with a stool. This gives the viewers the feeling of being part of the making process, and eventually they might have other new interpretation on the depiction of struggles in my artwork. It also accentuates the purpose of we might experience the same struggle, however our perspective about it will be different.
The title and theme of my exhibition is Despair and a Glint of Hope. I believe that art is a way to express and pursue hope when facing the feeling of despair. This theme is personal yet universal, as hope and despair is very easily felt by every person. Personally, when I feel down, I sometimes draw to relieve the stress, making it my hope. Hence, by following this theme, I wish for the audience to feel and notice that in every hard time, there is hope and solutions. So people do not need to worry of being completely overwhelmed by the darkness and hold on to that light of hope instead. All my artworks revolve on this theme through the constant use of symbolism as well as stories. My first artwork, Key to Light Up the World, is an example of the symbolism approach. It uses an object, a key, to represent hope, making it the focus of this artwork. Similarly, life amidst the dread shows hope in the middle of despair. The beginning after the end is almost entirely based on symbolism as well. This artwork can be interpreted as after every difficult situation, there will always be hope. Lastly, Equilibrium utilizes symbolism that lies mainly on the color of black and white. It is about how good and evil coexist in the world, similar to the yin and yang concept. There will be no good if there is no evil, and vice versa. The artwork Break Free uses a story instead. Specifically, it has a context put according to a particular issue in the real world, that is social standards. This shows the hope of being free from social pressure, which is perceived as despair when talking about this issue. My other artwork, The Dawn of Mind, has both symbolism and story. It is a collage in which it displays how a person always has the thought of hope even when they are feeling despair. As the title suggests, it uses the symbolism of dawn, which is hope and to start a new day. Next, Alone But Not Alone is about a person in isolation that has lost her path in the ocean. Hope will always guide us. Home is what the artwork is conveying. Another of my artwork, My Cage, is similar to Break Free but is more personal. When a person fails at expressing an emotion, it feels like the heart is caged, and soon the person will also get too caught up with the lingering emotion and will feel caged from the world as well. The intention of this artwork leans towards despair more than hope. At last, titled is an abstract artwork that illustrates the visual representation of the feeling when a person is overwhelmed by emotions to the point that they are unable to put it into words. The artworks that I choose for this exhibition are all regarding hope and despair present at the same time. Hence, I want to arrange it with the bigger size artwork beside the smaller ones in order to create a balanced look. This way, the audience can absorb the existence of despair and also hope when looking at my artworks. Beginning after the end will be put in the corner since it will be presented with strings connecting to artworks like this. And this will show that both sides of my exhibition are connected. From my artworks, I want the audiences to feel motivated to overcome their personal despair. Because in every depressing situation, there will always be a glint of hope. Thank you and enjoy the exhibition.
My name is Stefano and the title of my exhibition is Ambivalent Junctures. My exhibition is about exploring a nebulous past in relation to the future and how the past influences the present and how the present influences the past perspectives. The artworks are figments of several time frames as well as various events, feelings experienced within that time period. My prior self feelings are mostly portrayed by a brighter, warmer color since I've known that I was way more happier back then than I am now. Hence the vibrance in the artwork. The present, on the other hand, is mostly usually depicted by darker colors. This theme examines how the past self varies from the current self on occasion. Several of my works show fragments of my past and present, but some also show how I, as an individual, respond to certain matters and thoughts. Music has influenced me much since I tend to hear colors in my thoughts. Listening to Gus Dapperton and Glass Animals has pushed me to create my themes and how everything fits together. Gus Dapperton is an indie pop musician that exudes a more easygoing and carefree atmosphere, much like my past. And with Glass Animals, they are a pop band with a more serious and passive-aggressive tone, which reflected my history and present, with Gus Dapperton representing the past and Glass Animals representing the present. Glass Animals' music's passive-aggressive vibes gave me an unrivaled experience and encouraged me to produce subtle yet violent artworks, while Gus Dapperton's works drove me to create artworks that convey joy. Watercolor paintings and digital collage are the mainstays of the artwork. Watercolor as a media reflects the flow of water, which may be noisy at times and silent at others. A digital collage is a visual response to how technology has influenced our lives visually. I have a lot of nuances and have many meanings, and via these subtle details, I'm able to portray the delicate feelings that I'm experiencing at the time, although perhaps some of my works do not show as much as details as others. The figures I use are reflections of who I am. So there are no consistent figures in my artwork, as I believe I am a cluster of different aspects of myself. The artwork and the works of art shows how there are different moments in my life that contradicts and changes every time. My exhibition consists of 4 digital collages and 3 watercolor paintings. My artworks mostly convey the present time and emotions. Meanwhile, the collage conveys more of the past memories, experiences, and emotions. My artworks also show desires, different desires between what I wanted in the present and what I wanted in the past. This can be seen through one of my work called Stability, where it conveys my current desires for certain things to remain the same and unchanged. My artwork Bloombox, however, conveys more of the present desire of warmth and affection. The artworks are not arranged by particular or intentionally to force the viewers to feel tangled in between the changes over time. The artworks are exhibited in a back and forth manner so that the viewers feel like they're being pulled back and forth. As for the artworks, this can be somewhat vividly seen in the collage artworks Twisted and Apparitions, where apparitions refer to the haze in the past being hard to recognize from the present standpoint, and twisted being the present as a result of exposure to different experiences where the past has not been through yet. The past can tangle and differentiate with the present, hence this exhibition, where it conveys the changes between the past and present. The changes reflect my desire, and as I also unravel the differences in actions and what made me the person I am today, as a way to reflect my own identity. Thank you.
The title of my exhibition, Undercover, represents the main intention of my artworks, which are sadness covered by happiness. Identity has been playing an important role behind all of my artworks. The exhibition is personal as I convey my feelings, which are never shown explicitly through my artworks. The feelings and thoughts come from the past or the present time. My artworks are mostly done digitally, since it's one of my favorite medium of art. The artworks done traditionally are also manipulated by digital arts, since I want to keep it personal and using my personal style and arts. During the process of creating my artworks, I'm inspired by my photographs taken during my travels, Yang Yi and Park Tae-jun. The photographs during my travel inspired me to draw lights in the forest and also the lights, which show sadness which is covered by happiness. While Yang Yi inspires me to make semi-realistic artworks like Under the Rain and Blooming Spring. While Park Tae-jun inspired me to create comics like Suicide, since his comic plots are mostly about bullying, which has very expressive facial expressions. He has inspired me to emphasize the facial expression in my comic. My artwork connects through the story of my artwork itself. It started from a suicide, which is the start of all the sadness, followed by the chaos and the fallen dragon, with expressive strokes, showing stress, sadness, and anger. The following artwork is Lights in the Forest, which is also an effect of bullying, which shows loneliness. This sadness causes my grades to drop, which is shown in blooming angst. Soon, I tend to smile in front of other people, hiding my sadness, which is shown in Under the Rain. At the same time, I still try my best to enjoy my time with my family and friends, which is shown in the lights. And lastly, I started to gain happiness, which is shown in the Blooming Spring. Since my artwork is connected by a story. I will place it in a row on an eye level so that people can see and follow the story better and follow the flow of the story. From the fortunate events of life until the happiest one. This will show the audience how I feel from the past until the present time. Thank you.
What is life but an amalgamation of perception and identity? And with identity, no one can tell when it is purely authentic or not. This exhibition takes that concept and portrays the falsehood and changes present in life, taking imagery of transformation and metamorphosis, as well as the juxtaposition of serene self-love and destructive masquerading. Hereby, I present here Eyes, a compilation of ways in which I manipulate my experiences of change in my formative years and subsequently growth and recovering from the change. Many of the artworks deal with the perception of oneself, transformation, reflection, and or masquerading. The title Eyes gives the viewer a clue to which sense they should be tapping into and connecting to the deeper themes of my exhibition. Using sight to see what is before them and transform it into whatever they please. Humans use eyes to observe, either oneself or others, and the observation can reveal perceptions that will be either accepted or rejected. Perception is evident in my titular artwork, Eyes, in which a congregation of eyes sharply observe a figure. Judging, perceiving that figure as negative leads to the concept of change that appears in I'm real when I hide, where the masks change in accordance to the pattern that they are laid on top of, showing how they change to fit what they are told to do by society. And a more realistic approach is seen in You for Us, where a woman is photographed with the mask of happiness on, as the other masks of anger, sadness, and insanity hang beside her, out of camera shot, only portraying the happiness for the camera, phone pointed directly at her face. Feminine continues the prevalence of women in this area of perception, and the collage takes a more juvenilian approach, exposing the underbelly that is female marketing. Taking a more feudalistic approach, Forget Me Not takes the idea of change and growth in a more positive light. As a reimagining of the tale of Narcissus, the figure is looking directly at her reflection, fondly, reminiscing on how she has grown positively. This notion of positive change is, again, reflected in Cocoon, where a butterfly is released from its cocoon and flies freely. Butterflies and their ability to fly and move freely are a reason why it is a common motif in all my art, in most of my artworks, just behind eyes. And butterflies appear again in Tree of Life, referencing Sylvia Plath's poem, The Munich Mannequins. The clay pine tree is placed on a cardboard board, and it is a place where the butterflies are free and can congregate as they please, flying around and staying. The tree symbolizes longevity, and with the butterflies, it creates the image of change being present in longevity. I want the artworks that contain the butterflies to be on the top two corners of the partition, as I would like to have the viewers look up when seeing these butterfly artworks. The action of looking up to see the butterflies emphasizes the freedom that they symbolize and sublimely communicate to the viewer that they are flying away, past the shackles of expectation. The mask artwork is displayed in the middle of the partition on the edge, and this gives the viewer a sense of intimidation and faux eye contact, as I want the viewers to have some sort of eye contact with the artworks, and that will put them on the spot and make them feel as if they're being judged themselves by the artworks. As for Forget Me Not and Eyes, they will be placed under the two butterfly artworks. I want the viewers to feel as if they were placed on the spot and how they create identity and perceptions. Lastly, for Feminine Me and You for Us, I like to emulate the feeling of product shelves and displays. Hence, I would like to display them rested on table to emulate those products. Viewers implicitly will associate the positioning of products on shelves and tables in markets with the way I position these two artworks. Thank you, that's all from me.
Hi everyone, my name is KAITLYNN Eleanor Poa, and my exhibition title is called Let's Talk. So, identity and culture plays a huge role wherever you are in the world, and exploring it would take effort. As in Chinese Indonesian, most of the time I get myself confused whether I am an Indonesian or just another minority. In my exhibition, I want audiences to have second thoughts or discuss with others that is triggered by my artworks. All of my works are based on my experience and opinions. Everything should be in the past, right? No, let's talk about it. Throughout the process, FX Harsono and Suyang inspired me. Harsono had motivated me to look into my identity, as there is still a lot to unpack from the past about Indonesians with minorities, which led me to create Threaded. On the other hand, Suyang inspired me to talk more about beauty standards that is applied towards Chinese Indonesian women. Imposter would be a representation of it. As her paintings had a melting and peeling effect, I applied that feeling using impasto technique to get the similar aura. For this exhibition, I sectioned it into 3 parts: welcoming, sit down, and end of story. Welcoming is all about trying to welcome the audience to an open conversation that is represented by Be My Guest. Sit Down, on the other hand, talks about how audiences would go into a more serious and long discussions about issues that Chinese Indonesians are facing, and usually people sit down during these talks. The section is complemented by Imposter and Threaded. Lastly, End of Story is somewhat a conclusion of the whole discussion on how we can coexist, which is accompanied by Beauty in Unity. Be My Guest is based on my grandmother's habit of serving Indonesian and Chinese traditional snacks to guests. This work is more of trying to welcome audiences to the concept of Chinese culture, but at the same time, these snacks are already a part of Indonesian traditional snacks, which shows acceptance that has been established between the two cultures. Imposter talks about how beauty standards have been commonly discussed by Chinese Indonesian women since early days. Family members most of the time convince ourselves to improve by using beauty enhancer items. Beauty is pain, seen by the red hue on the black and white skin tone. Similar to the title, I used the impasto technique to mimic blood from cosmetic surgery. Threaded is inspired by the 1998 incident representing the racism towards the Chinese ethnic in Indonesia. I used sewing to form racial slurs in Bahasa Indonesia to create a sense as if those words are embroidered and normalized. In this work, it reflects back onto the perspective where the Chinese ethnic group in Indonesia was not worthy to be Indonesian. Beauty in Unity is a printed digital artwork about how when there are no boundaries between the Chinese ethnic and the Indonesians, everything is at peace, creating beauty. It is a more positive perspective from my imagination on the Chinese ethnic where we are all truly accepted. I want to put my work in a conversational manner. With that, I will have a sofa and coffee table. On the table, Be My Guest will be displayed as if they were real traditional snacks and tea, while Imposter would be hanged near the sofa. Since beauty standards are usually spoken during family conversations, which usually happens in living rooms. The other two artworks will be hanged near imposter because they would be the other topics that needs to be discussed as well. And I also allow the audiences to sit on the sofa so they could further communicate with the other audiences about their thoughts. That is all. Thank you.
She's Learning Herself explores the process of self-discovery and learning my personal identity. Adolescents are expected to go through a period in which they reinvent who they are as an individual by readjusting and modifying existing aspects of themselves. In my case, I went through an intense phase of completely detaching myself from the identity I had built up, losing my sense of place in society, culture, and literally between nations. Having come from a complex cultural background, it was easy to lose track of who I was within the criteria laid out by society. She is Learning Herself shows a process of self-discovery through artistic means, exploring my personal identity through passions, nationality, and various cultures. The exhibited artworks mainly revolve around emotional and psychological growth, save for How Do You Feel?, which addresses the physical growth and changes females undergo upon their introduction to puberty. The chosen artworks revolve around the rediscovery of my personal identity by exploring my passions in sports and swimming, the connection between highly influential cultures in my life, and my journey as a young woman. An existing artwork that may strike similar to those exhibited include MKT Olching's dynamic installation Kinetic Rain, displayed at Singapore Changi Airport in Terminal 1, depicting bronze droplets representing Singapore's tropical environment, which is linked to I Live Lifetimes With You. Additionally, Rashana Vajracharya's piece, Purity of Impurity, was a great influence to How Do You Feel?, which can be seen in the similar use of a red canvas and a menstrual pad, with differences in the composition, size, and certain cultural influences. The focal point of the arrangement was intended to be the installation, I Live Lifetimes With You. Not only is it the biggest exhibited artwork, but it also holds the most meaning and sentimental value to myself. With the installation being the most eye-catching artwork, placing it in the center gives space for less striking artworks to frame the empty space around it. I Live Lifetimes With You is an installation using paper and cotton, coming in various sizes. It consists of 5 bunches of paper cranes, depicted as rain from a cloud, which represents the number of countries I've lived in and the friendships I've made there. As someone who moves between countries frequently, keeping in touch with friends has proven difficult and influential to my relationships with new people. My yearning for people of my past is represented in each crane, and the spiral arrangement of the cranes comments on my internal struggle to let go of the memories of those I once know. Of Kyushu is a collection of photographs depicting fabric in the shape of my birthplace, Kyushu. These images show traditional fabrics and patterns I have inherited from my grandmother using Malay culture in the shape of Kyushu, the southernmost island of Japan, where I was born. In the lower right of the mainland, in most of the images, a flower or a circle pinpoints the capital city of the Miyazaki prefecture, Miyazaki, where I was born. Of Kyushu express my identity in the incorporation of my connections to Malaysia and Japan as a hybrid individual of both cultures. Aya is a collage that shows a multitude of reflections in itself, commenting on my identity as a swimmer, as I was 12 years old when I began competing. The use of reflections in water intends to share my view through my goggles, along with my mental state when I swim, as I spend most of my time self-reflecting in the water. The child symbolizes my enjoyment and love for water and the notion of swimming, along with the forming strokes, freestyle, breaststroke, backstroke, and butterfly. How Do You Feel is a mixed media art piece, including a menstrual pad on canvas. This piece explores the stigma and socially imposed silence menstruators observe with periods. At a younger age, I agreed with the common perception of periods as something to be ashamed of. Upon maturity, the understanding of menstruation as a common, natural occurrence led me to reconsider my views on the issue. We shouldn't fear acknowledging cycles or asking for pads. This artwork seeks the re-evaluation of the audience's view on womanhood by directly addressing materials often feared by society. In making this artwork, I had received a lot of criticism asking why would you use a pad? Why would you use a bloody pad? Why couldn't you use something more subtle? The intention of using these materials was to confront people and their fear and silence upon the topic of menstruation, thus asking, how do you feel about it? Thank you.
Hello, my name is LEANDRO. In my exhibition, my title is My World, My Perspective, My World. In this work, or in this exhibition, all of my theme is about daily mindset. It's mostly my show of a experience in my perspective and the world that I create through this artwork. And this theme shows my experience in my own different ways, and how this artwork was being created is most of the time is being influenced through another artist or illustrator that influenced me to its shapes and how I see to the world too in artworks. For my first artwork, which is Wave Set Windy, which shows one of my first time experience on a boat, and in this artwork, it's based on my experience that shows what I felt and what I feel on the boat at a certain day and certain time. In my second artwork, the new beginning, a new life. In this artwork, it's an animation artwork that shows a message through an animation. In this artwork, I present a world that I create and give it life through animation, which the perspective that I see will give in a different perspective, which make them have a new beginning or new start to their life. In my third artwork, which is Yearly Life, is a world perspective that I see through a window from the indoor house or something through a window. In the window there will be like an opening that see the outside world, in which is constantly changing from time to time. It symbolizes how I see in my perspective of how it is in collage artwork, which it shows how it forms and in different forms that could change in more than one, that could show its own uniques and differences. And in my last artwork, the piece of work is a perspective that I see through the landscape that I separated apart to show how each of the pieces is where I focus on the world that I see. In this whole landscape, it will symbolize how each separated pieces would be my perspective and the things that are focused on how it was in my and how is my arranged artwork would be in how I arrange and represent my artwork it's where my first created artwork will be from left to the right to the latest artwork that I have created. It shows how my world, when is my world or my artwork that goes by how it started created to how it latest.
Hi, I'm NADYA MARVELLA from 12th Dalton, and I'm going to explain about my exhibition. The theme that I'm exploring is based on body images and eating disorders. As a teenage girl living with 5 sisters, body imagery was something we all struggled with. Therefore, I intend to exhibit the struggles and dangers of various eating disorders that my family experienced. In creating the work, I wish the audience could gain a new perspective and understanding regarding these illnesses and evoke different emotional impacts for each distinct work, similar to what I experienced. With influences as diverse as Louis Martin, Yoko Ono, and Marina Abramovic, I was able to distill new variations of art from both simple and complex dialogues. Marina Abramovic's brave and bold installation, for example, has motivated me to construct and approach similar daring dialogues utilizing iconic objects as the subjects. Her work has influenced how I approach contemporary art, where I've been encouraged to use a wide range of materials, forms, and subject matters. My piece, She Was Beautiful, clearly demonstrates this impact as I depict a complex and modern issue utilizing a variety of mediums and purposefully did not choose a particular purpose or point of view, instead opting for an open-ended discussions for viewers to interpret. All of my artworks cover a different type of eating or body images disorders and are mainly installations. By creating large installation pieces, the artworks generate intense and visceral images of these ailments, and therefore the audience is more drawn to the piece and raw emotions are evoked. The work is more metaphorical, hence each viewer may connect differently to the work. Besides this, I included several 2D pieces such as photography and collage. This is because I wanted the process to adapt to the medium to my purpose. In my piece Replete, for example, I reconstructed snacks, wrapping paper, and erected a cutout collage of my childhood events to reflect the binge eating this condition I've battled my entire life. The small size and the materials were chosen so it would be more intimate and reflect my personal issues, almost resembling a family picture or a diary collage. As for the subject, I only incorporated myself or my family members since I wanted the work to capture my own experiences with these illnesses. In Sasak, I tried to depict the topic of body dysmorphia by using myself as the subject matter, hence using myself as an instrument to approach the issue. As you enter the space, you'll notice that the collage Replete would be placed in the center, while the other 2 large installations, Sasak and She Was Beautiful, on either sides. This is because I wanted to provide balance between the pieces by placing the smaller piece in the middle. The audience will get a clearer visual on the pieces and the exhibition doesn't look cluttered. Whereas Bloom is placed forward, so it would be not imperceptible. My overall vision for the viewers is to sympathize with my artworks. Thank you.
Experience. The initial theme to this exhibition was the broad theme of identity. During the exploration of my identity, which revolves around how others and I identify myself, communicating set perspective through art. However, the case, I seem to realize that all that defines my personal identity was my past experiences that are integrated into myself, resulting in my present identity. Therefore, in this exhibition, it's decided that to have a deeper exploration regarding my identity, revolving the exhibition around my past experiences allows myself to truly understand my own identity in my own perspective and others. Ours, the first part of the 2-part. This artwork depicts how I view myself as a person in the context of society, which in my case is close to non-existent. Not knowing for sure what people's perspective are towards me, and always second-guessing what kind of person I should be for certain people's. Ins or insights is a perspective of mine towards myself about socializing, wanting to socialize more while not being great at doing so. Only being able to present a few things about myself. Lost focuses on my cultural identity, not being able to identify and explore my cultural identity when having parents from 2 different cultures. Even with 2 different cultures, I am unable to truly experience one of them. This artwork emphasizes further my confusion of feeling of
and the feeling of loss, while still wanting to emerge in the two cultures. Straying away centers around the COVID-19 pandemic that is occurring at the moment, which have me dwelling on the past when life was good and me taking things for granted. Following depicts the experience of being addicted to gambling to the point that we aren't able to think logically and straight in, similar to that of a black hole. Through this exhibition, that is my sharing my own experience. I hope that I'm able to allow audience to have someone to relate to and further learn and understand themselves better, hence acknowledging their present self and improving for a better self in the future. Since the route chosen for my exhibitions are all very past experiences, which may or may not correlate with each other, scattering the pieces without any anchor piece and maximizing negative space around the work will suggest to the audience each work stands individually. Each of them represent the variety of past experience that formed the way I am today. Thank you.